Milton's, you know, a really good friend of mine. I've known Milton probably, I don't know, 8, 9 years or something like that.
Yeah, probably.
At this point. Like and then, you know, Milton's part of our team as well. So, you know, Milton's one of our highest recommended builders. So Milton is a developer, and an architect and a builder in the area. Definitely one of the best in this region for sure. So he has a lot of expertise as well in construction and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna jump into politics and safety and
Welcome back to Vilcabamba Real Estate Disclosures. So first, we want to start off and clarify what's behind this channel and why we produce the videos that we do. For those who knew us in Vilcabamba, discussing this channel concept at the end of our tenure upset all of our former acquaintances. It was like leaving a cult, blood in and blood out. But nobody thought it was a good idea. And why would that be? Adios, Tudus. Those connections are less meaningful than the channel's objectives. So where is the authentic Vilcabamba? And what is it? That progressive, healing, naturalist, inclusive, protecting one another, you know, that beautiful community. Having lived outside the U.S. for 20 years in places like Florianopolis, Brazil, Australia, and Saudi Arabia for over 4 years in each of those countries, amongst other countries, the Vilcabamba's level of violence, confidence scams, and betrayals was astounding. Vilcabamba is the most dangerous and heartbreaking place I've ever lived. Man, don't you have anything better to do with your time? Said Ron more than once with a guitar in his lap, a cig in his mouth, and a beer within reach. You can't do that. It's the Valley of Longevity and the Sacred Valley. Sharply stated from Zia, our neighbor up there in San Jose. And they had been home invaded, beaten, and robbed, possibly twice in the Sacred Valley. Vilcabamba's already been through so much. Why do you have to make those videos? Exclaimed Buddy Winstein. Hey buddy, that sounds like you have some excellent content for us. How about that house that Nancy is living in and the American who's currently in a federal penitentiary with the Securities and Exchange Commission case? That sounds like a great story. Words of what you say? We can't hear you. Is it Winstein or wisdom? So we commonly on our YouTube channel, you know, get statements like, this guy's nuts, he's crazy, it's erroneous crap. But the commentators always disappear with no dialogue. So trauma-based emotional vomit, like cat scratch fever. We've earned our paycheck up to the current date. 5 parties have stated they did not use abundant lying, citing the videos. Additionally, 3 retreat parties disclosed that during the retreat, they asked the right questions and they could see the fraud operation. So thank you, Ryan and Carl, for that. Well done, boys. So the retreat's now at 3,000. That's a massive increase from a year ago when it was about 2,000, proving that inflation and hefty profit margins are evident. So 3,000 for 9 days, you know, plus you're going to be paying your own airfare, parking. You might have house or pet sitting cost. It makes it pricey. So, and don't forget, you could be here for 2 weeks on $1,000 and you could do your horseback riding, your massages, you could go to the sugarcane factory and all those cheap and exciting places they take you, right? And it'd be much more authentic if you spent more time there and if you did it without them. So anyway, after gorging on all the abundant lying propaganda, these retreaters are already under their influence. Had they done their due diligence, they wouldn't have boarded the plane. Abundant Lying will show you and lead you to the bearded infant, their attorney, Leisha, their visa agent, and assorted other shadowy characters, all of whom are in on it. The retreat is as synthetic as they get. There's nothing authentic, especially all the smiling face masks about. Try living there. The retreaters have been gringoed by simply taking the bait. Will they figure it all out, or will AI, or will abundant lying take them to the kill pen? So, is the fraud that insane, unbelievable, or uncommon in Ecuador? How is it possible for Go Brandon, Ryan, Carl, and Jesse, I mean, look at these 4 guys, to have operated this fraud scheme in South America for over 6 years? Abundant lying would have a criminal group protecting them. Let's be clear. They're operating as part of a criminal group. It'd be impossible otherwise. And it's this criminal organization that will silence you one way or the other. So it's been alleged that Jesse's father in Delaware is part of the money laundering operation. But we find it interesting that Jesse hasn't taken the spoils and fled. He's a multimillionaire with a huge Bitcoin wallet, an extensive property portfolio, and hidden cash away. Yet he's still in the game. So why is Jesse still in Vilcabamba conducting this fraud? Well, let's just take a look at another fraudster, and let's take a peek at Madame Rosa, a.k.a. Maria, a.k.a. Lady Rosa. She's currently going by the name of Victoria, who founded and operated a £1 million+ brothel for 5 years. 5 years, and it took the London Metro Police to shut that shit show down. Madame Rosa didn't walk away. So the money was of secondary importance. Madame Rosa basically was looking at Jezebel and Annabella all rolled up to one. So, you know, I know the term psychopath has really been beaten down, but this other psychologist came up with this term hyper disconnected, which makes a lot more sense and obviously has the characteristics of a psychopath. So these are people that aren't connected to other people, to other feelings, to other things. And so, but we can see that by this, you know, what really drives them is this power and control, and that money is the secondary to them. They're motivated by it, but it's secondary to their need to dominate and manipulate others. And so we would see this behavior, this power and control, right? And we see this with Madame Rosa, where she would have been, you know, she was clearly running the show. I mean, if you look at the doofus husband, but so she would have been managing the human trafficked Romanian workers and possibly with the Johns, right? And so, and that's the control that they have. They have control over people's lives, over those women, over the amount of money they got paid, over the food they ate, over their housing, the hours they worked, right? It was full control, full dominance. And in some ways, Jesse's the same way now. He's basically the big dog in town, right? So he's got this, he's bringing in these retreaters and they're spending money and, you know, they're staying at hotels and doing the horseback riding and stuff like this. So he's actually has a hierarchy in Vilcabamba, you know, so he would be above and subordinate to him would be Tierra Walker and Tierra Realty and Vilcabamba Real Estate with Yadera and Derek. They're now sub to Jesse. And of course we have Leisha rattling her tin cup, right? And then the other restaurants and bars that all want him to bring these people in. So he's elevated himself to that point, and that's why we're going to argue that it isn't about the money when it comes to Jesse, nor was it about the money when it came to Madame Rosa, because they're staying in the game, because the game is this power and control, and money is going to be the tool. Right. So, and of course, the lack of empathy and remorse, we know we have Jesse with his duping delight in the video on Franchesca Williams, which was only a couple years ago. And so we can see he's actually getting quite a rise, just talking about the details of her murder and such.
Right. For the community, right? The community it's really, really shocking. And you're seeing that, you're feeling that, right? In the community, of course, it's, you know, nowhere near that for the community as it is for the family and all.
It's incredibly sad. It's incredibly sad.
And you know, this is not what an empathetic person would act like. And Jesse doesn't give a shit. You know, once you deal with him, you're going to realize he doesn't give a shit. And he's basically going to tell you that. I mean, he may have lied to you, he's robbed you, whatever, you're coming back for more, and he's going to show his lack of empathy. And ditto for Madame Rosa, you know, since we know her better than anybody does in Vilcabamba. And when, she can't own up to anything, right? And so even with this, she's not responsible for these 5 years. It wasn't, it either was her doppelganger that was doing this, and she was off doing something else. That's one of her stories. And so it just gets real tiring with these hyper disconnected people, right? We don't really want to deal with them if we don't have to. So anyway, we'll be covering Milton Mena. It's henceforth the bearded infant, the architect who likely isn't, with no government-issued license. We'll be looking at his Mondo construction, which is legally non-existent, coincidentally identical to Abundant Living Ecuador. But let's listen to the bearded infant's opener.
Hello everyone, I'm Milton Mena. I'm an architect from Loja. I'm the CEO of Mondo Construction. We're very excited. This is our first YouTube video. So I'm going to tell you about our company. We have been building since 2009. We mostly work in the Vilcabamba area, which is 40 minutes from Loja City in Ecuador, in Los Andes of Ecuador. So yeah, I grew this company since the bottom of it. It was just me in 2009, and now I have some architects that works in the office, engineer that works in the construction sites, and a very great group of people that it's our.
In other words, so far there exists no documented proof that the bearded infant finished the master's degree he claimed to be completing in 2012. Here, the bearded infant claims to have technical university, but it's clear he never completed even a bachelor's level degree. And back to the bearded infant's imaginary Mondo construction. So, yeah, this website is really laughable, but remember, the bearded infant is solely targeting foreigners, right? He's not going to deal with the Ecuadorians because they are not going to put up with his shit. They know what he's doing. So as we reported in a recent video, the bearded infant has an LLC shell company with Jesse, yet Mondo Construction and of course Abundant don't legally exist. So we can see they know how to establish an LLC. And so all they have is a functional shell company. If you want to work with a realty place like this and a contractor, well, here they are. But, well, maybe it's inscribed on a rock at one of their legally non-existent housing developments. So one party reported that the bearded infant was mentally, physically, and structurally incompetent to handle any construction and was immediately let go. In Ecuador, no profession has a functional oversight authority. Each has its territory and its racket. Fraudulent architects, lawyers, judges, realtors, contractors, crooked notaries, and investment specialists are waiting for you, so buy your retreat ticket now. The lawyers and judges get their cut in this fraud, right? Because they're actually perpetrating it. They can nick this shit in the bud real quick, but they don't. So we would guess that about 20% of people are going to go on to file a civil or criminal denuncia case, which is exactly what Jesse would want, those kind of numbers. Even though there's many more that have been harmed, but they're afraid. And this fear that emanates over the valley is real, and it keeps the frauds concealed, ensuring everyone stays in their lane. We've got the criminal organizations, the oppressive criminal defamation laws, and death threats to seal the deal. But it gets odder. I mean, there's, the bearded infant gets exhausting after a while, but here he claims to have successfully founded an architectural firm in 2009, a nameless place. But he creates another after an ayahuasca event, I guess, in 2012. But, the bearded infant's concept of founding something is just to say, yeah, okay, this is my company, and that's it. There's nothing else there except the bearded infant. So why wouldn't the bearded infant post his government license and credentials on his Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and website, or in videos with Abundant Lying? And all the bearded infant has to say is that he's an architect, just like Carl, Jesse, Go Brandon, Ryan. All of them claim to be a realtor, and Jesse said he's a very successful New York real estate investor. So in Vilcabamba, you can be anybody you choose. Pick your character and declare it. No one will question you. It's an unspoken agreement. The bigger the lie, the better. So the bearded infant and Jesse are running the same racket as Marco Leon's Shangri-La Realty, and here we have Joe Meadows' story of her collapsing house and loss of over $120,000. So Mondo Construction has built houses without a permit on sites the municipality has banned for construction. As cited in another video, there have been significant financial frauds. One reported over a $250,000 loss in 2025. But they charge upwards of $8,000 in closing cost, which should be under $1,000. And don't forget, this is closing costs for a real estate agency that doesn't exist. So on every point, whether it's the retreat, whether it's the property you buy, whatever financial engagement you have with them, they're going to gringo you big time. So here's what dealing with Mondo Construction will net you. Within the first year, the roof will start leaking copious amounts of water. Plumbing, electrical, and foundation issues are surfacing because Mondo Construction only uses second-quality Chinese products. Exterior fascia will start to peel off and collapse. Next comes the black mold and the endless repairs. But the bearded infant takes zero responsibility. The mask quickly slips and you're now dealing with an infant mentality. And Ecuadorians and expats have reported that the bearded infant is incompetent, untrustworthy, passive-aggressive, and you will be ghosted. So the only resolution would be a 3-year civil or criminal hearing. The outcome rarely ends well for expatriates. But, you know, there's always street and village justice, which is pretty common in Ecuador. So here's the bearded infant's Fox photo op team. I mean, come on, man. So the tales of the Amazonian tribe were true. The huge guy in the dress next to the bearded infant is the financial analyst. She also handles infant security, diaper changes, and other related tasks. Well, someone has to. The foreground features the accountant, while the other two architects are without credentials. So here's our favorite unlicensed realtor, this guy we really love. His name is Carl Marson. So Carl's now building a house, but why would he be doing that? I mean, there's tons of properties that are sitting on the market for years. Why wouldn't Carl buy one of the many eco, luxury, Japanese, Spanish, or other fantastic properties that Carl claims and peddles on their social media platforms? Well, I mean, we could also ask, where did Carl get all this money from, right? Well, like, what's his cut from Jesse? So first, Carl knows that the market's a complete fraud, and we can start with the prices are going to be anywhere up from $100,000 to $250,000. If you look at the price of these houses, they're at least a third overpriced. And again, you're going to want to engineer the walls. You're going to have to, you know, pay someone $2,000 to see how they built the place. And there's just a lot of checking you're going to have to do. So going on, so the experts at Abundant Lying, they don't keep any comps, and why would that be? In some sales, Abundant Lying will have you sign a consent form allowing them to sell for any price above the seller's asking price. Consent or no consent, they will sell beyond the seller's price anytime they can. So Carl knows that all these listed overpriced houses are inferior. They were built to look reasonable, but are structurally unsound, often built on movable dirt pads, feature shoddy construction and cheap materials. Many lack building permits, and some may be on land restricted from building due to factors like floods. But never forget, these sleeper liens that could take your entire property. These sleeper cell lien holders designated by Jesse will require a significant amount of cash to pay off when you're finally selling your property, and one could lose their entire investment. But don't worry, it's all part of their financial investment planning. Don't you get it? Anyway, if the worst happens, bulldoze the property, house, and everything else, fuck them.